It is F-Zero as we celebrate the Super Nintendo's 30th anniversary. Glad you're joining me for this episode of Pete Plays. Got my Super Nintendo shirt on, and we are going to go. We're going to play ourselves some F-Zero here. This, believe it or not, is my favorite game from the Super Nintendo's launch period. It is not Super Mario World. It is this game. This is the game that my friends and I played the most. And it's the game that I have the fondest memories of. I remember my friends and I just trying to beat each other's lap times when we played. And I had a blast. I didn't get my Super Nintendo at launch, unfortunately. I was not that well off. While I was working a full-time job, I was still in the process of kind of getting my act together financially. So my friends did get theirs at launch, and we used to go to this one person's house. His name was also Pete. There were 3 of us in the group of like 7 that were named Pete, so it was a pretty large percentage of us that had that name. So we would gather at Pete's house and we would play this, and we would just do practice, and we would try and beat each other's lap times, and it was great. It was glorious. When I finally did get my Super Nintendo down the line by like a month or a month and a half, there were other games to play, and we will be doing one of those games. We're going to start a Let's Play series on that, a Pete Plays series on that very soon. But this game, to me, is representative of the early Super Nintendo period. It's Mode 7 stuff. I mean, look at it. It animates so smooth, it feels fast. There's enough detail to make it feel like an arcade game. Like, I would have paid a few quarters to play this in arcades. It's challenging, it's fun. The difficulty curve, I think, is fair, although I don't like these drone cars. I think that they're cheap. And it has that feel about it. Like, Nintendo knew what they were doing, and obviously they've known what they've been doing for years, but this game just, to me, it just stood out. Not Super Mario World. I've developed more of an appreciation for Pilot Wings in my older age than I had for it when it was new. And I think the same can be said for Pilot Wings 64. But this game when I think about the Super Nintendo launch period, it's this game. Going to a friend's house, going to Pete's house, competing for high lap times, trying to unlock other tracks, talking to each other about work or about games. All of my friends would ask me about games because I was the guy that bought all the video game magazines every month. You know, Pete, what did you read? When's this coming out? When's that coming out? What are the reviews for this? What are the reviews for that? And it was awesome. Like, I loved being that answer point, and I think that's one of the things that kept me involved in video games, is because my interest level was so high. Being that expert within the group about gaming kind of just kept my interest high for years after that, and eventually drew me into writing video game reviews, which I did for a time. And obviously I did for the Super Nintendo guidebook, the Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the SNES. It came from that. It came from that period of time, like that second half of 1991 into like 1993 period. Oops. And it never went away. You know, there are other games that I think about now. They're not necessarily launch games, but they're early cycle Super Nintendo games, and we will get into those. But the ones that I think of: Gradius 3, Final Fantasy 2, which is Final Fantasy 4, of course, for those that are like have to be exactly right about that. ActRaiser, we will get into ActRaiser soon. And as much as it sucks, John Madden Football, the very first John Madden Football. As bad as it is now, and I can objectively say that it's a terrible game, but back when I first got it, like, that was unlike any football game that I had played. Now, understand, as I'm going the wrong way, understand that I didn't have a Genesis yet. I did not get my Genesis until like 1993 or 1992, I should say. So this was all I knew for video game football. The only video game football game that I had played at home before John Madden Football was a game from Accolade called 4th and Inches, which is from the same team that did the Hardball series for baseball, that I played a ton of on my Commodore 64. So Madden opened up a whole new world for me. It was using actual football terminology and plays, and you need to know a little bit about how the sport worked. It wasn't arcade where you could just walk in and know exactly what you were doing. There was a learning curve to Madden that, and honestly, I still haven't gotten great at it over the years, but it rewards you for taking the time to understand it and to practice it. But those are the games that I think about when I think early period, and then of course Super Castlevania 4, which I've played already for Pete Plays, Contra 3, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4 Turtles in Time, which I've played already for the channel. So these are early cycle games that I want to revisit as the Super Nintendo marks this 30-year anniversary. One thing you'll notice straight away about this is that it doesn't take long. Like, I'm already on my third race. We've only been playing for less than 10 minutes. Like, this is another one of those games that if you didn't have a lot of time to play, you could get a decent game session in and then go to have some dinner or go to bed or take a shower or whatever it was. Like, it wasn't time demanding like your Final Fantasy 2 or 3 or ActRaiser or Chrono Trigger or your RPGs or even some of your games like Super Mario World or Yoshi's Island. Those are great games, but they take a long time to complete. This, you can get through a Grand Prix set of 5 courses in like 15 minutes, and then you can go do what you need to do. Note that the tracks are getting harder. You're getting more of those hairpin and tight turns. Dirt on the left and right will slow you down, so you have to be careful there. And the thing about this game that always infuriates me is the drone cars. The drone cars in this game serve no purpose but to screw you up. They will purposely run into you. They will get in your way. They're interference. That's all they are. They're not trying to win a race. No. That's not what they're there for. They're there to just get in your way and slow you down so that the other 2 or 3 racers that are like primary characters have a chance to catch up. That's it. That's all they're there for. And not only do you have cars that are just getting in your way, but you have flashing cars that when you run into them, they explode and they just kill your energy. Hate those. Hate them. Like, there's one now. I'm going to hit it. Oh, I actually didn't. That is a shock. One thing about the Super Nintendo controller is it has the 2 bumper buttons at the top, the L and R buttons. They are used in this game for taking tighter turns, as I fall into 3rd place. You have to use those with pretty decent skill in order to take tighter turns and not have to slow down all that much. It is not simply a pick-up-and-play game. There is more strategy involved. And in order to get through the standard and expert modes of each Grand Prix, like, you have to understand the more advanced nuances of the play controls. Because if you don't, you're never having a chance. My good friend Chris from Classic Gaming Quarterly would probably laugh at me if he watches this and he sees that I'm playing on beginner. I believe it was his launch guide for the Super Nintendo that he did, an excellent video, by the way, and he mentioned about how nobody really plays beginner. It's too easy. For me, anything more than beginner, sadly, I'm bad at. I'm really bad at it. And I can't get very far. And I guess that opens a whole other can of worms, talking about game difficulty. We've talked about this, gosh knows how much, on social media. Should games have easy modes, and should people be coddled and stuff? And my opinion has always been, when playing these games, that I have nobody to impress. Like, I'm playing these games for me. So it doesn't really matter whether I play them on easy or whether I play them on hard. It is nobody's business but mine what skill level or difficulty level that I'm playing these games at. If I'm choosing to play them easy, then that's my thing. I'm not looking to put my name in a record book. I'm not looking to compare to anybody. I am simply just playing these games to have fun. That's it. So if I can get through these tracks on beginner, that's what I do. I play through the tracks on beginner. There are games for the Super Nintendo that do penalize you for playing on easy. Contra 3 is one that always comes to mind, because you don't get to play the full game if you don't play it on higher difficulties. But to me, it's just an achievement to be able to get through that easy setting and complete that portion of the game. So is it really beating the game? No, it's not. But that's okay. My idea, because I'm an arcade player, mind you, is that it's not necessarily about beating the game, but how far through the game you can get. Am I going backwards? Not a good look. Is this the last lap? Final lap. Alright. Probably should pay attention. This Deathwind course, by the way, is tough because Deathwind pushes you, the wind pushes you laterally. Boy, I'm in big trouble. I am not gonna make it. Oh, I did barely. No, I didn't. Yeah, I did. Oof, that's ugly. Deathwind pushes you laterally from side to side. It is a gusty wind that just kind of forces you off to the side. And that's neat about it. Each course has its own theme, whether it's desert or futuristic, or in this case, or in the case of Deathwind, it's got that windy feel to it, and I love that about this series. There are also multiple paths you can take on this particular course. There's a bit of what looks to be a shortcut, but you have to go through mines in order to kind of do it. Now, see, look at this turn. You have to be able to use your trigger buttons in order to navigate those S-curves without crashing into a wall. See if I can get my energy back. I did very, very briefly. All right, I'll show you real quick. But see, if you mess up and you don't hit the jump ramp, you wind up going over that dirt, and you wind up losing some speed. So it's risk and reward, which to me is again a hallmark of a great arcade game. Like your great sports games, like your like Golden Tee Golf, for example, utilizes the risk versus reward with great effect because it gives you multiple ways to attack a hole. If you're a power hitter, you can try to drive through an obstacle and get closer to the hole so you can get an eagle, for example. Like, get that really good approach. But if you mess up that approach, you can wind up getting a bogey or double bogey or worse. So that risk versus reward option is great, and some of these courses are set up for that too, and I like that about this game. This is the last course of the series, by the way. Oh, and see, there it is. See, I ran into that car, or that drone, which exploded, crushed my available energy, and I still can't fully power up. So when I lose my speed, I'm never going to get to top speed because I don't have full power. You can see my car or racer or whatever, you can see it flashing and see how my top speed can't go over 345 now. Like, I will luck out, but it was close. So there are three different Grand Prix. There's, I think it's Knight, Queen, and King, I think. We'll take a look when this is over. So it doesn't look like there's a lot of replayability, but there really is, because for each of the Grand Prix, there are 3 different difficulty settings. Then you can go back and you can practice, and you can set your own best times. This saves those all to battery, so as long as your lithium battery is working, you can keep those lap times to yourself. What I used to do, not only did I use the battery, but I used to write down the lap times in my binder. So there are a few ways that you can do that. So the replay factor in this game is still strong 30 years later. And you'll see after this little replay finishes that it shows you each of the tracks here, and it shows you the available times. Now you can set up to 10. It shows you the best lap, and it shows you the best overall time. So it's Knight, Queen, and King, 3 difficulty levels per. 10 of these lap times that you can set and you can compare against your friends. And while there wasn't any kind of memory card, so you could bring the lap times to your friend's house, you could certainly just bring the cartridge with you, and you could have your friends try and challenge you there. There isn't a way to put your name in, but that's why the binder was good, because you can always write the name of your friend or your buddy there. You know, I got 2 minutes 51 seconds. Chris got 2 minutes and 54 seconds, and you could move on from there. So this game stands up. And the cool part of this game is available on the Switch right now, as long as you have a Nintendo Switch Online membership, which I think, despite the fact that the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo games that Nintendo has been adding are not great of late, you can play this and the Donkey Kong Country games and some other fantastic Super Nintendo games, so you can play it that way. You can play it versus the Super Nintendo Mini, or on the Super Nintendo Mini. You can play it on a Nintendo 3DS XL. You can play it on the Nintendo Wii U if you still got that. So there are other ways that you can play. You don't have to have the original hardware in order to play the game and to buy the game. It is fairly cheap that way, whereas a lot of other games that I've been playing for the stream, not necessarily the case. Tecmo Super Bowl, you can't. But Super Castlevania 4, you can via the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. So there are different ways that you can play these games. I really do recommend them. F-Zero to me is my favorite Super Nintendo launch games, and in the coming days and weeks, I'll be playing some of my favorite early era Super Nintendo games as we honor the 30th anniversary of the Super Nintendo right here in North America. Until the next time, my friends, thanks for watching this episode of Pete Plays. We'll do it again real soon. Take care of yourselves and each other. Until next time, catch you later.